Battle of the Florida Atlantic Coast is going on in week 1 as Jacksonville flies on down to Miami to take on the Dolphins. It's going to be an amazing game, a potential preview to a future playoff matchup between these two teams, as I think both teams are potential playoff teams as well. And we're going to break down the game here in a second. But before we get into that, if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to the Tracy Take, help out the channel, and leave a like while you're at it and a comment and let us know who you think is going to win. I'm Tyler with my brother Ryan. Who do you think is going to have more opportunities for explosive plays in this game? That's a facetious question. Obviously, I'm joking around. But when it comes to the Jags and Miami, I think the Jags improved a lot here. And I'll say this as well, too. I actually went to the Jags-Falcons preseason game a couple weeks ago. I know the Falcons, not to rain on the Jaguars parades, Falcons were playing their second and third string team, and the first string team for the Jags played for essentially actually the whole first half. And they went down as usual and just went down methodically and scored 2 touchdowns extremely easily. It might have actually even been 3. I can't remember. But Evan Ingram looked good. Brian Thomas Jr. looked good. Gabe Davis looked like he fit in well. Gabe Davis looked like a great decoy, actually, because they were moving Brian Thomas Jr. around. Evan Ingram looked great. Christian Kirk didn't end up playing, but he only would have ended up making it better. It was very impressive for me to watch and see them play. Trevor Lawrence looked good. What do you think of this Jags team from what you've seen so far in the preseason? The Dolphins team kind of coming into the this week 1 matchup.
Yeah, I think they have done a pretty good job of improving this wide receiver room. The loss of Calvin Ridley, who had a good year there last year, was I think they really wanted to add a more traditional, like, outside wide receiver, and that's why they get Gabe Davis, they get Brian Thomas Jr., and then I think that frees up Christian Kirk to kind of move around the formation. Not been Brian Thomas Jr. specifically is a great athlete. I also think Parker Washington is a receiver that they seem to like. He was a 6th-round pick in 2023, and so I think they have a really good wide receiver room there. I do still have some concerns about their offensive line. However, Anton Harrison coming into his 2nd year, Cam Robinson is also there as well. For me, it's the depth. After Ezra Cleveland, like, you don't have a backup left guard. You have Luke Fortner, Hodges Cooper as your 2 backup offensive guards. And so that, to me, I think later on in the season might be an issue. However, in this matchup, hopefully this offensive line can be healthy. I think Evan Ingram has had a pretty good relationship with Trevor Lawrence there. So all in all, I think this offense is going to be pretty good. I am interested to see this defense and how they kind of come together, because it's pretty much the same cast as it was last year. They just have a few backup corners, Jerry and Jones and DeAndre Prince, as like kind of it may be rotational roles in that secondary. So all in all, I think it's going to be really interesting watching this Jags team. And I mean, I hope that they do well. The problem that I have in this matchup is Miami has basically been almost unbeatable in the first like 7 or 8 weeks of the last 2 or 3 seasons. And that is, I think you go look when they're healthy, when this offensive line is doing good, when Mike McDaniel has had a whole offseason to sit in a boardroom and just draw up weird ways to set up plays and think about how he can get Tyreek Hill in space. I think that is just a nightmare in the first few weeks. And so last year we saw him invent basically putting Tyreek Hill in the slot, motioning him out wide, and then snapping the ball while he's in motion. So he can basically just get to a full sprint before anybody else can react to it. So like, I'm curious to see what he draws up in this matchup. And I do think like this Dolphins defense, they lost Vic Fangio. They're getting older. Both of their 2 starting edge rushers from last season had torn Achilles and a torn ACL. So, like, there are some weaknesses on this Dolphins team, and I'm not trying to pass it off as, like, they're this juggernaut. But this is just a really tough team to beat in the early part of the season.
Well, and it's another, I would say, like, good point to what you're trying to say is, like, how explosive this offense has to be to win games. And so we'll get back kind of into that in here in a second, but let's quickly kind of take a look at what the betting odds are saying right now. If you do like to put a couple bucks down on the game, go ahead and check out the link down below, the BetUS link. They have a bunch of great promotions going on right now for all first-time players here. So the BetUS odds as of recording of this video for the Dolphins Jags game is the Dolphins are 3-point favorites with the over under at 49.5. I'll say right now 49.5. That's according to this video. That seems low. That seems really low. I would say 49 is 28-21. I don't know. To me, I'm maybe getting vibes of kind of what Tua and Justin Herbert did last year, where it was like, 38-35 or something stupid like that, both had 400 yards. Just because, a couple things. One is week one. Two, great point about the Dolphins kind of seeming to get a little bit weaker on the defensive side of the ball. They did pick up Jordan Poyer as well, who I think is going to help out overall just in the secondary, but also as a veteran presence as well. They did pick up Calais Campbell also, which is going to be a huge addition, even though you still lost Bradley Chubb and also
Jalen Phillips.
Yes, Jalen Phillips, I believe, are both starting on the PUP list, correct?
I will check really quick.
Yeah, Bradley Chubb is. Oh, no, Beckham is. And I'm not seeing.
Jalen Phillips might be active.
Okay, it'd be great if he was active, coming off a torn Achilles. So that's definitely going to be something to watch as we go into this. But I also think too.
Yes,
as well,
Jalen Phillips is on the active roster.
He is on the active roster. Okay, that's good. Yeah, because I didn't see him on the PUP list there. So that's going to help out a little bit. I think as well too. The Jags might be built to kind of run with them, something similar to the Chargers team last year. Because if you go down their list of weapons, I mean, you have Christian Kirk, going to have Brian Thomas Jr. now, going to have Evan Ingram, going to have Gabe Davis, going to have Travis Etienne now in the backfield. And I think that's going to be a lot for this team to contain. And when I look at the Dolphins side, on the offensive side of the ball as well, I mean, you guys can be Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and then Devon A-Chain as well. But another thing, though, too, I'm curious how the Dolphins, and it might be their X factor. I think the whole X factor in this game is going to be their offensive line. How do you stop Josh Allen, who had 17.5 sacks last year? How do you stop Trayvon Walker, who I think also had confidently had double-digit sacks last year? Because those are going to be the two main guys on this defense. Because if you can stop them, the Jags secondary, I think, is just going to be trying to play contain. Just going to be trying to just obviously just play contain. But they can get away with that if you're able to constantly keep getting pressure. So did the Dolphins do enough on the offensive line in the offseason to help slow down Josh Allen and this team? So I will say I don't think heat is going to be as big of a factor because normally they have that, like when Buffalo comes down in week 2, it's like, yeah, they've been living up in New York. It's totally different coming down to Florida. Jacksonville's not that far away. I don't think it's
Jacksonville's just as humid. I mean, you can only get to 100% humidity, and Jacksonville is.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be as big of a home field advantage as they're used to getting comparative. But those are kind of my thoughts on that, kind of what I think of just the overall matchup of this game here. Who do you think is going to come out victorious in this matchup?
I'm going with the Dolphins. I think this offense is just going to be probably too much. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. And when you look at what Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have been able to do early on in seasons, that I just think it's going to be tough for Jacksonville to keep up with that. I really do think of the Chargers-Dolphins game from last year where like receivers on both sides are just running by people, and it's just a shootout all the way till the end. And that's what I imagine happening here. You also, like we talked about Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Go look at Devon A-Chain, Jalen Wright, Raheem Mostert. That is by far the fastest running back trio in the NFL. And I think those guys themselves provide a very explosive threat that nobody else in the league can really replicate.
Yeah. Now, this game is going to come down to the wire. Would not be surprised if these two teams face each other again in the playoffs. I'll disagree with you here. I mean, I could absolutely see Miami winning this game. I just think maybe I'm influenced by a preseason performance against a third-string team, but I think Jacksonville is going to come out hot. I think Evan Ingram's going to be an absolute nightmare for these teams to match up against. And one of the things I noticed, too, as well in this game is I always thought that Brian Thomas Jr. was almost solely just going to be an outside guy based off what I saw in college. But they had Malik Neighbors, and that was Malik Neighbors' role. They were moving him around a bunch. He was lining up in the slot, lining up on the outside. Gabe Davis is mainly going to be that outside guy. And I think you pair Brian Thomas Jr. up with Christian Kirk. Then you have Evan Ingram as well. You can move all those guys around. So we're going to have Travis Etienne going on in the backfield. It's going to be interesting to see how this Dolphins defense kind of handles all that movement. Obviously, we know how great the Dolphins are going to be with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They're going to come at you with speed, and they're going to get their licks in, absolutely. But I think I do believe that if the Dolphins don't figure out how to stop these guys, because they're going to have a lot of great pieces that Trevor Lawrence can throw to, and if they're not able to get pressure on them and that offensive line, which seemed immensely improved overall from last year, Trevor Lawrence, I think, can pick this Dolphins defense apart. So it's going to be, I think, very close. I'm going to say something. It's going to be like 38-31 Jacksonville.
Okay. I was going to say 35-31 Miami.
Okay. I like it. I like it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
This is one of the matchups I'm most excited for, just to see all the explosive offensive talent on the field at once. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on who you think is going to come out ahead in the Jacksonville Jaguars versus Miami Dolphins matchup. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.